Hey there folks, Aldershot here, and today we're going to do an impression on Absolute Drift, developed by Fun Selector Labs. On sale on Steam at the regular price around, I believe, $11 USD, something like that, at the regular price. I don't know, I'm Canadian, so it's a little bit hard for me to do these conversions. But it's around there, it's around $11 or $12 USD. But anyways, if you're curious to know what it is, we'll obviously take a look at the game. But it is kind of a free roam driving game, top-down driving game, I should be more specific, that focuses on drifting, as the name would suggest, of course. Now, at the end of the video, we'll talk a little bit more about the game's extra features, as well as options, but for the time being, let's just jump into a game which is free roam, and check out what Absolute Drift is all about. Alright, so here we are. This is Absolute Drift. We are in free roam mode right now, which basically allows us to drive around the fairly large open map, kind of fulfilling little missions here and there that's completely detailed and described on the map itself. Like, for example, here, drift between the wall and jump. Okay, well, we can probably try and do that, so we'll do that now. Hopefully, anyways. I'm pretty bad at this game, I'll be completely honest. Oh, like I said, I'm pretty bad at this. It does take some getting used to, especially with the top-down perspective, right? We'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to try and figure this part out here. There we go. There we go. We just finished one of the missions here. Once you fulfill all the missions in any current section of the map, it will allow you to go into the next section. You can also change up your cars as well. You'll find these garages with the details showing on the top, right? So it does give you a little bit of variety in the game if you look hard enough. You can also change your paint up a little bit. You can find a paint shop. But also, besides fulfilling those little kind of missions and tasks, like for this one here, this one's pretty simple. You just have to jump the gap. Alright, let's do that right quick. Easy peasy, right? Easy peasy. Alright, well, let's go. I'll show you a little bit more of the game here now. Right here, you can also enter these kind of mini challenges as well. And doing these will also unlock them in the extra features, which we'll talk about at the end of the video. But for now, let's just take a look at one of these little mini objectives, if you will. This one's called Drift Kahana. Alright, let's check it out. So this is more of a free-form score attack kind of game, mini game I should say. So we're not actually going to follow a track, we're going to just fulfill these little missions here. Oh, we just drove off the map. Did I mention I'm kind of bad at this game? We'll talk about that as well, but I just want to show you the basics first, right? So in order to score points here, we have to drift next to these little poles. That'll give us some points, just like that. We can also do donuts around the circle here, and that'll give us points. We can also, and I find a little bit more challenging, but we can also spin out in this. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. We can spin out in a circular pattern in those red squares, and that'll also give us points, right? Now, this isn't the only type of special little mini map or mini game that you'll find in this game. There's also more track-oriented kind of maps as well, which we'll show you some of that once our time expires on this one here, where it's a little bit more traditional, where we'll be going through a full track, you know, straightforward track, trying to drift and score points and all that stuff. And in this game, it's really not about speed. It's really more about scoring points and drifting and all that kind of stuff. Drifting will be your main source of points and scores and all that kind of stuff. So keep that in mind. You know, this is not a racing game at all. This is a drifting game, very, very much so, right? See if I can do some more donuts around this thing here. We can do it more than once, right? Unless we crash into it like a noob. I'm pretty bad at this game, did I mention that? So I guess I should talk about the controls a little bit, because yeah, the controls are something definitely that you'll have to get used to. Oh my god. Alright. So I'm going to just be frank with you guys. The learning curve for Absolute Drift is intensely high. Intensely high. Alright? I'm about 2 hours in. Actually, I'm over 2 hours in, and I still suck at this game. A lot. Okay? Now, given I don't play a lot of driving games, that could be very much a reason why. But nonetheless, after 2 hours into any game, I generally get a pretty good feel of said game and actually end up doing pretty good. But in this game, I'm still kind of sucking, right? I'll go into why. Well, first of all, the controls feel like your car is a bag of sand and the floor is made out of ice. It's very, very slippery, right? And I'm pretty sure they did it for the sake of, you know, the whole purpose of this game is to drift, right? So I can understand why, but that doesn't make the learning curve any easier, even though I do understand why, right? It definitely does take a lot of playing to really get used to the car and how it drives. Especially, again, it's not a racing game, it's a drifting game, so that's something that you really have to keep in mind and get used to. Something else that made this game a little bit, actually not a little bit, extremely challenging to learn is the perspective, right? As in, like, when you're driving downwards, left becomes right and right becomes left, seeing how this is a top-down perspective. And because of that, that's going to take a bit of getting used to as well. And learning to counter-turn while you're drifting in order, you know, to stop yourself from spinning out, which I've been doing all the time. That is also something you will have to master and do well in order to do well in this game. So the learning curve in this game is ridiculously high. Very, very high. It might actually be a bit of a turn-off to newcomers or even intermediates to driving games, right? I found it very, very frustrating when I first played this game until I started learning, you know, counter-turning and understanding the physics of the floor and the friction in this game. It took a lot of getting used to, and I'm still kind of sucking, right? So it can prove quite frustrating if you don't have much of a driving background as far as your game repertoire goes. So do keep that in mind. I can see, because of this, I can see higher end play, you know, for people who really get into these kind of games, be extremely exhilarating and very, very entertaining, right? Because the game definitely gives you lots of opportunity to do well, and the few times that I have done well in certain missions, it feels friggin' fantastic, you know? Just because I understand the challenge level that this game has to present. So do keep it in mind, this game is extremely frustrating when you first get into it. Learning the controls of your car and how it reacts with the physics in this game will, again, as I've mentioned multiple times already, take a lot of getting used to. There is definitely a huge learning curve for Absolute Drift, right? So I'm not really sure if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. I think for beginners or intermediate players to racing games, it might be perceived as a bad thing. It's definitely a barrier of entry, that's for sure, right? But I think for the high-end driving game fans out there, this might very well be extremely appealing. Because this game definitely focuses on high-tier play, and it definitely, from my experience, doesn't give much breaks to the lower-tier play players, right? So take that as you will. It is what it is, right? Now the graphics and the sound design is absolutely fantastic. I have absolutely no complaints at all. It has this wonderful, wonderful, as you can clearly see yourself, kind of minimalist, extremely clean and sterile kind of look to it. But it's extremely, extremely well designed. It's very, very appealing. It's extremely eye-catching. It's definitely what caught my eye in the beginning, you know. And then the music. Oh my god, you can hear it right now. Hopefully I have to let audio loud enough. But the music's just absolutely fantastic. It really, really is. It's one of the best parts of the game. One of the reasons I didn't give up on this game early on, even though I kind of felt it, because getting used to the controls in this game is very, very difficult. But one thing that kept me playing was the music. I wanted to keep listening to the amazing OST of this game. I really, really do love the music that's presented in this game, right? So there you go. Audio and visually speaking, no complaints. It's a gorgeous game. It's a great sounding game as well, right? So there you go. Alright, well, we want to spin on top of this roof here. Oh, and we fail. Okay, whatever. We're going to move on. We're going to move on and try to do a different mission. Let's say right here. Mountain Drift, Mountain Hatoka. Alright, let's do that. play. Alright, so this was more of a traditional track kind of mini objective, if you will. So like I said, speed doesn't really matter. It's all about controlling your car and trying to take advantage of these little point poles, if you will. You have to drift next to them to get the points. Now I say speed doesn't matter. Speed does actually matter, okay? The faster you drift next to one of these point poles, the more points you'll score. Obviously I'm doing a terrible job at it because I'm generally a pretty bad driving game player. I think that's quite clear to see. I'm not very good at this game at all. But I think me being bad at this game and still kind of enjoying it quite a bit really speaks volume to how well put together this game actually is. It definitely, the presentation and the uniqueness of this game's concept is definitely keeping me intrigued. It's motivating me to get better at this game. And every little bit of progress I make in getting better in this game, like learning how to counter steer properly, it's extremely satisfying and very, very rewarding, right? I got that real nice sense of reward once you actually do well in this game. I'm not doing well in this game, so I'm not getting that sense right now, but the few times I have, I definitely felt that sense of satisfaction, which is great, of course, right? So that's basically Absolute Drift. Is actually pretty interesting. It's definitely an interesting game. It's a great looker, that's for sure. Sounds absolutely fantastic. Absolutely no complaints there. But the learning curve is probably going to be the biggest barrier of entry as far as enjoying the game properly for a lot of players. But with that said, I think people who are fans of driving games, I think they will really get a really good kick out of this game. You know, the concept's a little bit different from a lot of driving games. Not about racing, it's about drifting. And like I said, the game doesn't really cut any breaks to the intermediate player and really focuses on its high-end play. So expert driving game fans, you might actually really enjoy Absolute Drift. And in more intermediate driving game fans, I still suggest maybe giving it a shot if you have an opportunity, because there's something really special about this game that I think has a lot going for it. But like I said, you know, be prepared for a bit of frustration, because there's going to be a little bit of that starting off. Anyways, that's about it. That's Absolute Drift. So let's go back into the main menu and take a look at some of the special features. It has events, right? Oh god, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, hold on. Let's get out of this. Roll 4. Okay, I get you. Back to main menu. Okay, very good. So we can go to events, and that will take us directly to those little mini challenges I talked about, any ones that we might have unlocked. Then we can go to garage, and we can select which car we start off in from the ones that we collected so far, and we can change the color and the design, all that kind of good stuff, of course. Then we have settings, which is a little bit lacking. Okay, so you have some steer sensitivity, vibration strengths, and all that kind of stuff here. We can also view the controls. I believe, no, it's not customizable, unfortunately. That's a bit unfortunate. Audio, usual sliders. Graphics is the disappointing part, right? There's really not much here. You got your quality high, medium, low, etc. Full screen on or off, and camera FOV. That's about it. No anti-aliasing, no, you know, that sort of stuff. The usual suspect. This is very minimalistic. There's not a lot here. So the options are a little bit lacking, unfortunate. And the special features really just relate to the free roam mode. So it's really technically only one real mode to really play. But other than that, that's Absolute Drift. Pretty interesting. So hopefully you guys found this interesting and enjoyable, and you did, you know, show me some love, like, share, fave, and comment. And if you haven't already, subscribe. I'll bring you lots more videos just like this. Thanks for watching, guys. Alder shoutouts.